Hello, hello, hello. Oh. Hello. Hey, we got some people. Can you hear me? I just switched up my stuff. Chat, please tell me if you can hear me. Hey, all right, we'll take it. Hey, so we have a wild situation going on here in the greater Cincinnati area. We have some weather. I've lost power a few times. I'm in a different room. I mean, everything's a little bit wild today, you know. But usually I get the stream up and going a little bit sooner. But I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit of a scramble today. I've got shadows I don't expect to be having. Like I have this one going through my eye right here. I mean, listen, you guys. I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm recording in a foreign room, not literally foreign. You can see though, I still have the fire behind me. I feel like I need I feel like you need a little bit of some consistency, creatures of habit, right? Yeah, it's been a busy one. We had wild weather today, so we had the siren going off here, and for what's it called? For maybe that's better. I had we had the tornado siren go off, and it was recommended that we go into our basement. But we flagrantly ignored it. I mean, that's just how we roll here. It is time for beer and chat. Good to see everybody in the chat. We got some Brewers Apprentices in there already. We've got Robert Brown and Jamie Tripp. Hey, what is up, Todd Porter, Jason, my man, Metal Memory, my man Hugh. He's in there. He's in there rocking it. Todd, I hope the conversation that was had the other day was helpful and everything like that. We can we can keep chatting in the future. But anyhow, yeah. Well, I guess is it. Oh, I still got live early, didn't I? It's 8:00 right now. By golly. Hey, do you guys want to be patient with me for a second while I post this on Instagram? Todd, good to hear it, man. I'm glad that it was helpful, and lovely lady, and we had a good chat. So yeah, very cool. Let's get this thrown up on the old Instagram. Got a story, baby. Boom. Bam. Bam. All right. Hey, baby, listen, it's 8:00, so let's get rolling. Hey, everybody, welcome to Adam Makes Beer. My name is Adam, and this is your March 2023 live stream. Things have been busy, man. We've been we've been rocking and rolling on my side. I don't know how your 2023 is going, but man, I can't believe that it's March already, flying through it. I don't know seasonally how things are by you or how it's typically going this time of year for weather, but we've been pretty mild, man. I love it down here. I love it down here in that not so south, not so Midwest area of the U.S. It's been a beautiful weather as far as I go. Beautiful winter as far as I go. But we're rolling right through, man. We've got Bachfest going on here in Cincinnati. I don't know about you, but man, Bach is huge. Bach is huge down here, and they've got the big Bachfest down there, man, pouring all those things. We have our Bach goat beer that is pouring both in the tap room, and we do have a location where it's pouring downtown where it's available. So go check that out. This is the second time I've brewed that beer. Last time I brewed it, it was called Brigade, and this time, because we were feeling wild, we went a little different direction with it and called it goat beer. So yeah, we got goat beer pouring, even though it is like take two on a similar recipe. We're pretty pleased with how that came out. So that's cool. And but yeah, like I said, Bach beer season down here. It's getting warmer and all that good stuff. Kind of on the weather note, though, if you're just joining us, we have some kind of wild weather blowing around. We've had a bunch of rain today, flood warnings, things like that. Everything's cool, but we have had some power outages, and my lights have gone on and off a few times within the last hour. So we'll see, man. If this thing works, then it works and it's awesome. If we get cut off, though, I'm probably not going to try to log back in tonight. And just it is a bit of a process. So I brought the same TV up here so I can still have the fireplace, even though I'm in a different spot in the house. I'm in my son's rooms. My two sons share a room, and they're both out of the house right now. One's at college and one's doing missionary work, and so I'm in there right now. My folks are visiting. They're staying downstairs where I usually record. So yeah, I'm up here, But again, if power gets weird and this stream drops, don't sweat it, man. Honestly, I'll try to restream tomorrow night at the same time. And we'll just see how it is. Let's jump right into channel news. Man, it was another super strong month, man. And listen, you know me. I'm on the Mandarin Orange Kroger Seltzer. Come at me, okay? It's refreshing. I'm on my soft cider game over here, staying hydrated. So anyways, little drinky drink there. It's been another good month for the channel, man. We're running up on 3,000 subs. And really, we started dropping stuff May 18th, 2022. So we've got some months to go. We're kind of building steam as we go. I might be getting greedy, but you never know with how YouTube works and when you tap into different networks and things like that about what kind of growth you can get. But we're coming up on 3,000. I'm going to say it out loud. I think it'd be wild if we hit 5 by May. And again, maybe that's crazy. So that'd be March, April. That's 3 months. But maybe we could. That would be pretty cool. I do have I do have more collabs coming up, more appearances on other people's channels and platforms. And that stuff really helps. That stuff really helps to grow, as well as all of you hitting up all your beer loving friends, brewery loving friends, all that stuff, hitting them up with this channel and spreading it around, you know. So please do that for me, because it really, really helps. And the cool thing is the more all of you are doing that, the more you share my stuff out, whether it be channel, social media posts, what have you. It's helping me out with suppliers. It's gonna, I think it can help me do some cool things with suppliers going forward. So it'll help make some cooler content too. Right now, I'm talking to a few different people on the supply side of maybe some things that I can get in and work with and do videos on. So we'll see, you know. But I can tell you this. I will be back on the Hoppy Hour with CH on 3/8 on March 8th. You will see me on the Hoppy Hour once again. I am looking forward to it. It'll be a bunch of fun. CH is a cool dude, and we had a good time last time. And I was a little surprised when he hit me back up so soon, because I think it was in January when I was on there the first time. So hopefully it went well, and he's not just inviting me back to yell at me for how poorly I did the first time. But no, I'm looking forward to doing that. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be talking beer and all the things over there. I am also going to be doing a live stream on their platform with Genus Brewing. I believe Genus is the way to pronounce it, Genus. If that is not the way to pronounce it, I'm a loser, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to hear you say it when we live stream. But anyways, some West Coast brothers that I'll be sitting down with talking beer on the 12th. Keep an eye out on my Instagram, and I'm sure I'll post stuff online as well on YouTube. Brew Dudes. This was an offshoot of what was it? My wife's bringing me coffee. She's wonderful. They won't be able to see you. Don't worry. It's the last thing she wants, is to be able to be seen on camera. I love you too. Can you close that door, babe? Or do you want me to? Thank you. Still right there? Thank you. You're sweet. My lovely wife. So anyways, Brew Dudes, that's where we're at. Brew Dudes, one of the guys on the Hop Edition podcast has a YouTube page called the Brew Dudes, and we collaborated. And this is kind of maybe a little theme that's developing. I have some different YouTubers that I'm collaborating with, where they are taking a recipe that I have won an award with professionally, and then we scale it down. They brew it at home, do tasting and everything like that. So Brew Dudes just did theirs on my award-winning hazy pale ale called Pathfinder. That was actually the first medal that I won working at Cartridge, and that was in the Ohio Craft Brewers Cup Championship, something like that. But anyways, we did a full brew day on that. The beer turned out great. I think it's a 2-part series. Again, Brew Dudes, Dudes Brews, and it's dude as in Big Lebowski. Just so you know, for all you dude fans out there. So yeah, 2-part video. First one is a sit down chat that we had. Making hazy beer, smaller hazy beers, some fun brewing conversation there. He knows his stuff. It was a fun talk, and plus great accent over there. One of the UK homies. So there was that with Dudes Brews. What else? More recipe collabs in the works as well. Pardon me, I just sneezed. More recipe collabs in the works as well. TBD. I have continued contact going on with a few different people. I don't want to announce anything yet because nothing is in stone yet. But yeah. So we can you can look forward to more of that stuff coming up. And gosh, I think that's about it. Just kind of channel business. If you are not subbed to the YouTube, make sure you are. If you are on Instagram, please give me a follow on Instagram. And again, anything that you do on one of these social media platforms to share my stuff out, that helps me incredibly. And it's free. You know, we do have, I mentioned my boy Jamie Tripp and my boy Robert Brown in there with the little star next to their name for Brewer's Apprentice. That is the $2.99 monthly subscription to the channel. I try to give priority to questions when you got that little star next to your name. It's kind of the little benefit that comes with that. But just a little way, you know, it's a cup of coffee a month, depending on how expensive coffee is by you and how much you make it, order it to be like a milkshake. But if it works for you and your budget, I really appreciate it. And 100%, don't feel pressure to do it. If you don't have the scratch, it's no big thing. This stuff is meant to be out there, free, and it's about sharing. It's about sharing what we know. So yeah, man. But anyways, dude, that's kind of where it's at. You know, my lovely wife brought me a little beverage here. If you did not check out last month the talk that I had with Chris Schneff from Stormcloud, you're missing out. It was good. Chris has grown so much, man. He worked for me. I was his first boss in the industry, and great kid. And I hesitate to say kid. He's a great man, and he's out there doing really, really good things. And we just had a great chat about thiolized yeast strains, techniques, different things like that. So you should go back and check it out. If you didn't, I will say that was probably the biggest stream that I've had. Was on that one. We had a good number of people in the chat. It was very, very cool. And yeah. Whoa, Jamie, man, gifted 20 AMB beer memberships. Okay, so that's you. Did you just I'm the worst at this. This means oh, well, things are going on in here. This thing just said gifted 20 Adam Makes Beer memberships. Tell somebody like me what that means, because I don't know what that means. I think it's awesome though, because it says it's a gift in the chat. So if somebody spread yeah, if somebody wants to explain to me what just happened. Sometimes I do this and oh, I see. So he buys the membership and they go out to other people at random. That's awesome. That's a very, very cool thing. That's very, very cool. Jamie, that's crazy. Sweet, man. Love that. And yeah, when things like that happen, it still blows my mind. Again, very, very grateful. What else? But yeah, man, we were talking about that sit down that I had with Chris, talking thiols and yeast. Really cool stuff. Oh, I have another one coming up I'm going live like 2 nights in a row. So what was it? I think I have my date right on that Genus one, but then maybe like on the 18th or something. I've got another live stream that I'm doing with my boy Andy Gallagher, who is head brewer at Linwood Brewing Concern. You definitely need to you definitely need to check out their beer if you can. They're doing great things with anything from hazy beer, standard West Coast IPA. They've got some banging lagers on. Billy up there has always made a beautiful Irish stout. Yeah, so yeah, for sure, check that out. We got a few more people that have popped in September and June. What's a good dude? Good to see you. We have Frucampo. Welcome, man. I'm a little hesitant to read some of the names because sometimes you guys try to get me to say something I shouldn't be saying. Yeah, dude, Jamie, you're welcome, brother. That's yeah, absolutely. Federico, welcome, my man. Welcome. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I have to double check that date where I'm going to be sitting down with Andy Gallagher. Dave B, what's up? We are going to be talking a bunch of stuff. Andy's one of those guys. He's another guy that worked for me in the past. Good dude, and yeah, he's putting in a lot of work on these obviously, hazy IPA is so big right now, but he's a real purist. It took him a long time to turn the corner on these hazy beers. He loves making some beautiful German lagers and everything like that. He's got some big time hardware hanging around his neck for doing fruited sours, like long-term sours, stuff like that too. So there's a wide range of things that we can talk about. So maybe we can end up fielding some questions for that before we go on the air with that, but you won't want to miss that either. He does have some big time hardware hanging. September and June. Well, right now, DJ AF, welcome, man. Mark Hopkins, what's up? Yeah, this is Renato. Welcome, brother. Man, we're everywhere from the West Coast, Dominican Republic. We're all over. We're all over, baby. So the kids are not in bed just yet. Maybe the real littles have just gotten laid down. My 11-year-old is at a buddy's house, and my 16-year-old is not going to bed at 8 o'clock just yet. But yeah, man. Well, listen, let's get it. Are people still getting it popping? Regardless, let's get it popping. Start jumping into some of these questions. First question from my man Jamie Tripp on YouTube. Hey Adam, looking forward to the live stream. Here is my question: if you were opening a brewery in the early summer, how would your tap lineup look? We are hoping to have 8 for opening, and we'll be doubling to 16 as we go through the year. Do you see a market opportunity in any particular style this year? Is there a style that you haven't brewed at Cartridge that you would like to try this year? Yeah, man, I think this is Jamie. Thanks for the question. And again, Brewer's Apprentice, Jamie Tripp. So thanks so much. And if you remember, Jamie's got his spot that he's opening up north of the border. The friendly, nestling that brewery in the confines of the Great White North up there in Canada, right? So we're talking lineup, and I can give some pointers on this, but there might be some kind of bigger picture takeaways too. First of all, the regionality of the whole thing is just crazy. You know, if you go downtown in Cincinnati and you go into breweries, you're going to see multiple IPAs in most spots. And then you go a half hour outside the city to Mainville and you go to Cartridge and you see the 2 IPAs that we have on. and we're pouring a ton of lager, right? But that's a demographics game too. All right. My customer base out in Mainville is different, is different, man. And you know, so I mean that's gonna be part of it. I get what you're asking, Jamie, when you say, well, you know, like what can I get ahead on, you know, like because you do want to be ahead of the curve. Like that doesn't hurt at all to have something, you know, a style that's hot that people are looking for, stuff like that. Um, I would say, first of all, you're gonna need an easy drinking beer. You're gonna need a pale beer. That beer can be a lager, it can be a faux lager, or it could just be a blonde ale. When I say faux lager, I mean maybe like going with a colder pitched American ale yeast on a blonde ale. You could even go ahead and adjunct that up a little bit and add rice or corn to lighten up the body on it. But really, by and large, I think at most pubs, the lightest beer is probably one of the best sellers. Definitely top 3. And I know at the places that I've been, those in-house, man, that's what rolls. Is the lightest beer you have on the menu. So you need that. You need hops. You know, you need a nice hoppy beer. People can say things like, well, you need stout, you need something darker. I don't move a lot of stout at my place. I don't know what the deal is. I sell a good amount of Prost, which is our Munich Dunkel, which is you know, like a brown lager. And so that kind of scratches the itch a little bit, but that's going to be dependent. That's going to be dependent on, you know, your clientele. So kind of what I would do is, you know, try to hit those different points. But really think about what you think you can do well. You know, I think maybe most times when people are coming in, they're gonna get a sampler of everything that you have, right? So just think best foot forward. Think tasty, right? Think tasty. I want to have a second pint of it beer. That's my feeling, but it could just be kind of some of my own personal prejudice showing there a little bit too. But I would that's my thinking. That's my thinking. Something easy drinking, or not necessarily. You will need something easy drinking, but then beyond that, just stuff that you feel as if you do well. If you want to get a funky and wild, go funky and wild. But just make sure whatever you're doing is tasty and well done as you can. Tasty and as well done as you can, because which kind of takes you into the second portion of it. And I think that this is something that the original ownership at Cartridge did a really good job with. Was they were essentially like, let's find out what people want to be drinking here, and then let's make it. I like that, you know. And for us, we ended up making and selling more lager. You know, it does require additional tank time, but it is, from a raw material standpoint, cheap, and it might be something that you can differentiate yourself with a little bit. It also happens that I happen to be particularly passionate about it, so that's nice as well. But let consumer preference guide that. sometimes people say like Stone can say it, like with the whole like arrogant bastard thing. And Founders, I think Founders was saying for a long time, like we brew what we want to drink and everything. That's great. Like those are all good things. But on some level, you need to be making the beers that the public wants to drink as well. And you can be bold and you can be out there and different things like that. But you want people to drink multiple pints of whatever it is you're serving. You know, one thing I would caution you against, and again, just kind of my take, make don't have everything on your tap list be over 7%. That's it drives people away, and it reduces the number of pints people can have there, right? You're in the game of selling pints at the end of the day. So if you're gonna have those, what was it, 6-8 beers on at first, you can have some higher gravity stuff, but consider having a good measure of those in the 4 to mid 5s range. People like to sit down and have a few pints. So yeah, I mean that's just my take. But again, keep your eyes open. I mean, if you go into place after place and you see people just absolutely like destroying like brown ale in your area, don't be too thick-headed to say, well, I'm not making a brown ale. If for some reason brown ale is hazy IPA in your town, then make a brown ale. So yeah, man. That's kind of my thought. WD, what's good? Renato, my man, welcome. Starting up the new adventure on a small 500-liter brew house. Exciting times, man. Exciting times. Mark, all the way from the UK. Look out, man. Look out. But Jamie, yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of my big picture take here. Is there a style you haven't brewed at Cartridge that you would like to try this year? Brother, I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I am I'm just keeping up right now. It's a little bit of a wild time. I mean, don't get me wrong, things are good, but yeah, I just think it's one of those times, getting, with a lot of change at work, busy with the family, and then busy working on channel stuff too. I know I'm going to be doing R&D stuff. I know I'm going to be working with some quick souring with Chansey yeast and fruit. I know I'm hoping to be starting, and hopefully I'll have something to show for it soon. But hopefully I'm gonna be pairing up with maybe some people on the hop side and doing some very specific features on certain hop growers and certain varieties. So that would be great. But yeah. So as far as thinking about anything new and stuff that I'm looking to dig into, I'm a little bit in survival mode right now at work. Getting, kind of getting everything sorted away. But I know I'm going to be making a lot of hazy beer, and so one of the things I want to be doing this coming year is getting sharper with understanding my hops, with understanding what different levels of hops is going to bring me in IPA. And then especially wrapping my mind around exactly what these stylized strains are going to do, and kind of thinking about what the smartest thing, the smartest way for me to be using that tool going forward. As always, I would love to start to put a little energy into developing what will probably be my lifelong pursuit of, in my mind, the perfect Pilsner. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I would love to be doing some stuff on that front. I just had an interesting talk this week with a rep from Crosby, and I think there's some elbow room with some of these but they're not new. But there are some new German aroma varieties, but with some of this newer style Pilsner that's being brewed, whether you want to think of Italian Pilsner or just some American type interpretations like that, I'm interested in taking a look at some of the noble heritage American grown hops and using them in some of those newer school type Pilsners. Not just always hitting that beer with Saaz, Middle Fru, things like that, but maybe some of those things that are noble derived, whether they be a little bit of Glacier. I believe I can also use the word Comet here, maybe even a little bit of Comet. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna be. That's what I'm gonna be chasing a little bit. So yeah, Jamie, appreciate your question, and as always, appreciate your support, brother. DJ AF, welcome to the chat. Brian, what is good, dude? Brewing Bad, WD, it's wreck. It's filling up. It's filling up in here. We got a show going on. You guys ever watch Arrested Development? When who's the guy when you would get like the scrap bone off somebody's plate and say something along the lines of, get a carrot, you get an onion, baby, you got a stew going. Is anybody with me on that? I don't know if you can hear the sirens or not. But yeah, I think that is the deal. Let me just pick through the chat here a little bit to make sure I'm not missing. Okay, now this is an old Crosby hat. Now here's the deal. I've got you can see the wear. You can see the sweat fade on the thing. But yeah, I am talking to Crosby. I want to they have a line of CGX hops. Think Cryo, and they have some cool things. I had a good talk with their reps at the Ohio Craft Brewers Conference, and like those guys, like their hops, and it's a family biz, and yeah, I like it. So we'll see. Maybe I can do some stuff. Maybe I can do some stuff with some of their CGX hops coming up. So fingers crossed. But yeah. But yeah, this hat's broken in. There's not a lot of hats that fit my head anymore. So like the style of hats have changed, and like the tops are shorter and shorter. And I have a large dome. Like if you look at it from the top, it's essentially shaped like a rugby ball, like just dumb and squashed and pointy on both ends. So yeah. But anyways, anyone ever use crystallized fruit powder? Brian, that's a really good question. It's my understanding that I think I know of some people that have been doing that. I might be talking out of my rear on this, but I'm almost certain that Urban Artifact uses some of like the freeze dried fruit powders. I believe that they had a beer maybe called something like Astronaut something ice cream or astronaut something or other, like hinting at like the freeze dried fruit type concept. Yeah. And I think that's I think it's a pretty compelling way of slamming some dense fruit flavor into things. I haven't played with it myself, but there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with it. So I'm gonna have to do some picking around on that. Brewing Bad, any funky beer brewers in here? Where did you get your aged hop for styles like lambic? Actually, one of the things I would recommend on that is, I know you tossed that out for the chat, but what I would recommend is I would be hitting up your homebrew homies that might be growing hops and then maybe never doing anything with them. Leave them whole, and then you can just age them. You can just throw them in a paper bag, throw them somewhere warm, and let them run until till they get cheesy on you. Definitely give them 9 months to a year. And one of the reasons I was suggesting maybe something grown at home is, one of the reasons that you want to age those is you want to be dropping the alpha acids out of them, because a lot of those long-term beer spoilage organisms that you're going to be utilizing to make those longer-term sour beers, it's they're averse to the contribution from alpha acid, or alpha acid contribution from hops. So if you can age those out of the hops, it'll help with that. Or wait, am I jacking that up? No, because they'll still maintain some of their antimicrobial properties, but you're dropping the bitterness, and so you won't have that bitterness clashing with the acidity as much. But yeah, so those are some of the things. The first thing I said might not be right, but I mean, it's true, but I don't know if that's the reason. Listen, I'm doing what I can, people. I mean, this is as good as it gets with me. I have not September and June. I have not used concentrated hop oils for aroma or anything else in there. But again, that's some of the stuff that I'm going to try to start leaning on. I was just talking to my YCH rep and a Crosby rep this week, and we're gonna see what we can do. Again, one of the hopes is with 2023 at Cartridge, I'm gonna get some R&D opportunity, and it only makes sense for me to be doing R&D on the hoppy beer side, because it sells. And so I could see myself getting a chance to work with some of those goodies and doing that. So hopefully that's a stay tuned scenario. But yeah. Next question, Lalo Alvarez on YouTube. I need a layman's explanation of what a grant is. What is the equivalent on the homebrew side? So, great question. If you watch any of my brew days, you are going to hear me make a fairly corny joke of talking about my man Ulysses. And so on my brew house, I have the hot liquor tank on the bottom, mash tun on top. Down over to the side is the grant, and then there's a pump attached to the grant that goes down, up, and then back up to my mash tun, so I can vol off, recirculate. And in my brewery, he's named Ulysses S. Grant. I'm sure there's no other brewery. I'm sure there's no other brewer that's done that before. That's made that joke or labeled their grant that way. Probably in the same way that no one has ever hung a picture of Christopher Walken on the walk-in cooler in the kitchen either. So I'm a trailblazer. I'm a trailblazer. So yeah, the grant is it's this intermediate vessel that in this case holds wort. Okay. The reason that grant is in place is, remember, my mash tun has a false bottom, so like a screen, and then there's space below it, and then there's the grain above it, right? And when I am verloffing or recirculating to create a grain-free wort, or when I'm loudering, running that wort from the mash tun to the kettle, it flows through this grant. Reason being is, if I don't have a grant, if I don't have a vessel between the mash tun and my pump, there remains the possibility that if my pump was just running directly to the bottom of my mash tun, if I ran that pump too fast, I could take my grain bed and compress it, and I would lose the ability to flow both wort and sparge water through uniformly through the entire cylinder of that mash. And that's really what I want to be doing, because I want to be extracting as much flavor and color and sugar out of that as I can. So, as kind of a safeguard from running that pump too hard and compressing that grain bed, I then run wort off the bottom of the mash tun into the grant, and then I pump off the grant. If I run the grant dry, I haven't put any additional pressure on the grain bed, right? It'll just choke my pump. So that's really the idea. It's kind of a safeguard of over circulating or creating too much pressure suction on the bottom of your mash and then collapsing that mash bed. And then what you're going to see is if and believe me, I've done it plenty of times. If you collapse that grain bed rather than it being straight across, sometimes you'll see like the leaning tower type grain bed where you'll have you'll have a cylinder and it should be nice and beautiful like this, but then it'll be like leaned, and you'll see like it'll cut off the wall, and you can see that your sparge water is actually just running down the top and down the side, and you're not rinsing all the grain over on this side. It's just running down. Sometimes it'll cone up in the middle, and so like the grain's real tall at the top. It's like a stack in there, and then it goes down on the sides. Again, that means that you're running your sparge water down along the outsides of it, and not universally, but all the way through the grain bed instead. That's what that grant is helping to deal with. You don't see that. I don't believe you see that on the homebrew side, in part because the volumes are different, and you can't, and it's probably more difficult to blast that real hard. Like when I was recircing off of, like out of a kettle, not a kettle, but a cooler, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could run it too hard or something, but it's probably a little bit of a difference in scale. And yeah, so that's kind of the deal. Let me make sure the chat's up to speed here. Yeah, so it's Rec jumping back, talking about the hop oil stuff. He's been using some Incognito from Yakima Valley. It's been fantastic. He ordered some Spectrum from them, and he's gonna be messing with that soon. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I hope to be doing some fun stuff with some of those things coming up. Yeah, Hugh Grant was an option, WD. But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I'm threatened by like Hugh Grant's just kind of like I don't know, just his like his 90s like soft nice guy undeniable allure. I mean, is that what I'm resisting there? It's a real possibility, I mean, also, I was gonna say Hugh Jackman, but then I'm forgetting. I'm not riffing off Hugh. I'm riffing off of Grant. But, I mean, there's also Amy Grant. For any of those like 80s, early 90s, like Christian rock people out there. I mean, there's a lot of options, but we went presidential. Okay. We went top shelf. We went presidential. I love seeing a lively chat. I like all of you seeing each other in there. Ah! September and June says, I call my mill Adam. He crushes it. Love you, September. And it only works intermittently. and there's the dum dum. Yeah, so that's kind of the deal with the grant, man. And maybe there are some homebrew systems that utilize a grant, because I'm not gonna lie, some of the stuff that's been coming out in the last 10-15 years since I've been homebrew, man, you guys have some rocket ships that you're buying. It's crazy. You just have these great big things that they look like the thing that they used to make coffee in, like in the church basement. And apparently you just put grain in it, and like 6 hours later or whatever, a beer comes out. You guys have some crazy equipment in there. You got robots brewing and everything. So I don't know much about that, but yeah, I mean, maybe there are grants out there, but I don't really think there are on that size. So yeah. So Lalo, hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, appreciate the question. Little Java. But maybe I need water too. Lalo, Alice Rare Moore on YouTube. I was wondering if you could talk about spunding valves and spunding. I feel like this is a setup. See, my man Alistair wants me to talk spunding valve and spunding and spunding valves. The real idea behind the spunding valve is so when I'm working with one of my tanks at the brewery, shaped like this, and then off the top there's a pipe that comes off and runs down the side. That's like the CIP arm, or the blow off arm. That's where the CO2 will be expressed out of the fermenter. Man, my nose is itching. That's where the CO2 will be expressing out of the beer. Sometimes Kreuzen, sometimes beer. I have a beer that's blowing up all over the place right now. I've probably put a barrel of beer on the floor. I was trying to push the volume that I was getting at the end of the day out of a batch, and I may have hit a point of diminishing returns, because some of that word I made just kind of ended up all over the floor. But we'll see once we get it through Bright Tank. So yeah, each tank has this CIP arm, this blow off arm, and the idea with the spunding valve is that it can be attached, and then it will actually maintain a pressure inside the fermenter. So let's say, for argument's sake, you can set it for 10 psi. It will build 10 psi in the tank. When it gets to 11, that's when it'll start off gassing. Okay. Yeah, and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that swear by it. There's some advantages to it, where fermentating under pressure, it can actually help to reduce ester production. So if you're looking for on the lager side, potentially really restraining your esters, that might be something to chase there. It's also something that can help capture more CO2 in the beer naturally. So you don't have to be putting as much gas into your beer afterwards. So those are a couple of pluses. So that's spunding valve is really, it's like a fancy pressure release valve. Now, one thing that I would want to caution you about. I do know that they're selling those things on homebrew scale stuff. Obviously, on the pro side, they can be used as well. Historically, these things are used on lagers, and lagers are typically not blowing out of your fermenters. So if you are doing if you're using yeast strains that are going to be shooting out of your fermenter, if you're going to be using some of those really aggressive yeast strains that want to stay up in the krausen and be blasting off all over the place, maybe spunding is not the right thing to be doing there. In my mind, I don't want to be slamming krausen yeast slurry through those fine little parts in your spunding valve, and maybe creating a bad connection or sticking it, and then you're just building and building pressure inside your fermenter. No level of clean fermentation is worth that. So yeah, I would be cautious if you're looking at doing that on a beer like that. So it's something to look into. I'm interested in it. I'm not in a space right now where I can mess with it too much. But that day will come, and I'll be able to. I don't know. I would love just to even know like what exactly it does. You know what I mean? Like one of the things right now is I'm running some different lager strains, different pitching rates, and stuff like that, and it's just fascinating to get to the finished beer and see what you're getting, you know, because when you use the same standard practice all the time, yeah, you get used to that, and so it's interesting to venture outside of that and see what it brings, because it's a big opportunity to learn. So you may I'm trying to I'm not talking through my yawns anymore because it makes my editing harder when I chop these things down. I think my editing will be cleaner on the other side, so you stick with me through my yawns. But yeah, so yeah, that's the deal with spoonding. Listener more on YouTube, and I appreciate the question. Quick jump back to the thing about putting in order. Yeah, you have a non-traditional hop I should try out. Yeah, DJ AF in the chat. Thanks for being live with us. About to put an order in on Yakima Valley. Do you have a non-traditional hop I should try out? Oh. I don't know about non-traditional, and I'm not sure what that Yakima Valley not calendar, but catalog looks like. But get in there and do something. Get something you haven't used before. Whether it's a hot product you haven't used before. I think that's a great way to do it. Get a version of a hot product you haven't used before. And yeah, I mean, and the other thing is this, and this is something that was kind of an eye opener for me. I'm not sure if it's, yeah, I would run. Jamie Tripp talks about checking out their Cryo Tri Blend 2403. Yeah, there's some cool cryo blends out there to try out, and you can jump on something like that for sure. But yeah, that would kind of my thought on that front, my man. Wyatt H on YouTube. How do you deal with the pH of the fruit puree to keep it balanced and not too tart? This question comes in from my how I make fruit beer video. It's, I think, one of my most consistently viewed videos. I'm wondering, I think like all time, I think it's one of my most highly watched videos. I will say this. I did chop up the little bit last live stream when I said that, oh, the TV did freeze. Can you see it spinning right here? I think it's too blurry, or at least on my screen, it's the light thing is off. But yeah, but it's still there though. We'll see. Do I still have Wi-Fi? Oh, there you go. Froze again. What are you gonna do? It's the fire is roaring in spirit. I mean, it's a fake fire after all, guys. Come on. Yeah, this fruit beer video is consistently one of my most viewed. And that question came off of this, but I will say, last live stream, I answered a quick question. Somebody asked in the chat if I was ever going to write a book, and I talked about potentially wanting to do something like in the brewing space and like leadership and stuff like that, and maybe that would be fun, like at some point in the future. Bro, I cut that thing and I threw it up as a video, and I think somehow it got negative views. It got like negative 32 views, and I lost 2 subs. Last time I'm dropping a video like that as a solo little clip. So yeah, but back to the original question. Yeah, that fruit beer, it's one of my first ones where I'm making fuse at one of our, it's like our rotating fruit beer handle, the same base beer, different fruits rotated in. It's a popular one. How do you deal with the pH of the fruit puree to keep it balanced and not too tart? Couple of things. One, I only add enough hops to a beer in order to make it street legal. Street legal just simply means that beer has to have hops in it. And so sometimes I will add samples, like the little 1-ounce samples of something that people send to me that I don't want to use for anything else, or I know I don't like their product and they just sent me a bunch of samples. And so I'll just save those and use those. Like I'll just throw in an ounce, like at the beginning in 15 barrels. So like literally it's nothing. But I don't want my bitterness in a beer like that competing with the acid that I'm using. Now it's important to note that I am using 12 boxes, so roughly 504 pounds of fruit in a 15 barrel fermentation. So and I am fermenting that fruit out, so it's not going to have all of its residual sugar to stick along with it. So I am adding a good amount of fruit, and it will bring a fair amount of acidity, especially depending on fruit type that you're using. So I do try to almost eliminate bitterness from the equation. I will try to prop up sweetness with my grain bill. I like to use low Lovabond crystal malt, really like 10 and under on the Lovabond scale, for pushing up residual sweetness in a beer like that. And you can always use lactose in different things, but I like to keep lactose out of my beers as much as I can because it stops some people from drinking them, and I want everyone to drink my beer. So that's kind of the deal. Now, fun one. If you have made a fruit beer and it is too tart, I got some great advice from I have a rubber band that I'm playing with. From Beechwood Barbecue. He runs like 1 million miles a day. His name's slipping me right now, but it'll come to me as soon as I stop trying to remember. The head brewer, brewmaster at Beechwood Barbecue out in California, he had talked about adjusting the Forrest Gump. Yes, September. That's eventually where Forrest stopped running, was at Beechwood Barbecue. And he just started winning tons of awards like they did there. But yeah, great talk by that guy at the last CBC I went to. and he was talking about pushing pH of finished beer back up. And what he recommended was using food grade slaked lime and making a slurry out of it using hot liquor tank water, hydrating it, and then pushing it in line as you're transferring a beer into the bright tank. So for me, for instance, Julian Trago, kaboom, thank you. High fives to September and June. Great talk by Julian. I absolutely loved it. If you have access to that, or just any podcast stuff you can get from him. I used to listen to the Brewing Network back in the day when he did too. And so he's one of those dudes that I remember from back in the day and like the forums and listening to the live stream show, the Sunday session when they were doing that. So yeah, Julian's a good dude, talented guy, and he helped me out a ton because I was making this pastry stout, and so massive starting gravity, massive finishing gravity, but I knew that I was going to hit it with a bunch of raspberry, and raspberry is really acidic. So I have all this sweetness on this side and then all this acid on this side. And I put in the beer, it fermented it out, it finished, and I tasted it, and man, it was too acidic and it was so lean. And even with all that residual sugar in it, it was just flat and boring. And I was sweating it. September, you would be able to find that interview under the if they store it by conference, it's on it would be CBC talks from 2022 at the conference, and maybe I think he was explicitly talking fruit beer in that, and so worthwhile, man, so worthwhile. Great talk. And he had talked about pushing pH when you go too tart. Well, not too tart, but when you go tart with fruit beers, one of the metrics you can do is you can push the pH back up utilizing food grade slake lime. So I hit it. We bounced back and forth some stuff, and that pastry stout that I did was down at 3.8 on the pH scale because of all that acid that I had added from the raspberry. And then I bumped it back up. He gave me the calculations he uses for it and everything, and he was super quick to answer. And I just love stuff like that. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing as brewers. So yeah, I love that. But he told me exactly how they were adjusting pH and how much like lime it was required kind of per barrel. And man, it took that beer from 3.8 to 4.2, and it became jammy and full. It was this chocolate raspberry pastry stout that we did. And I know not everybody's into pastry stout, but I'm not gonna lie, man, it was really good. It was a really good version of that. Like, that's not a beer I'm gonna drink all the time, but it was tasty as hell. I will say that. And just driving that pH up, just cut some of that acidity and just let that raspberry play off all of the sugar in there. Once I neutralized some of that acid, bro, it was just jammy and round and beautiful. I was pleased with the beer. So yeah, it was it was very cool. A couple other names in here. I see Wobbly. I see Sean Barbetta. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, Julian Trago. If you get a chance, support that man. Tons of they got all sorts of stuff going on over there. Beechwood Barbecue. I think they have multiple locations. Show that man some love. So all right. So why that's how I do that. Those are some of the metrics. Those are some of the things that I do when I'm using an elevated amount of fruit and potentially generating too much acidity in that beer. I'm dropping bitterness out of the beer, and potentially propping it up with some non-fermentable sugar from my grist. I prefer low Lovabond crystal for that. That's what I use crystal wheat from Malt Europe for a ton. And then kind of final straw, you can always bump pH back up if you find that you've gone too low. Hugh, are your parents or in-laws staying with you? Yes, they are. My parents are staying with me. And are they watching? It's a real possibility. They were threatening me with tuning in, and I told them, listen, you're not threatening me. I need the streams, baby. I need the watch hours. Give it to me. So mom, dad, if you're watching, this is what I do with my time. And also behave. My mom might be in here. Come on now. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think they are, but they could be. You never know. Or wouldn't it be crazy? Here's the thing. Wouldn't it be insane if Hugh is like actually my mom and she's been viewing for like a few months or something? Mom, if that's you. On to the next question. KBC Quickie on YouTube. Another great video from my favorite pro brew tuber. I have a couple of, but thank you. I appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. How do you dilute your acid? Do you do a acid only sparge or both acid mash and sparge? If only sparge, any specific reason for doing it that way? So yeah, first of all, man, yeah, thanks so much for your kind words. I'm just gonna cut it down to Quickie, okay? Quickie, thank you for the kind words. When I talk about diluting acid, when I'm just laughing at the chat. I'm sorry. Yeah. So sorry, guys. I do not dilute my acid when I am acidifying my initial mash. Okay, I just kind of pour that in throughout, maybe like in 3 or 4 different additions, and maybe I could pour it in all at once, but I like to spread it out a little bit. Okay, maybe it'll help it. I don't know. I just like it, so that's what I do. But when I am diluting acid, only for when I am acidifying my sparge water. So I'm already running my first wort to the kettle. I have my sparge water coming down. I will take, say, for instance, say I'm going to sparge 250 gallons, a grain bed with 250 gallons. And so I will take the amount of acid I need to sparge 250 gallons, put it in a spray bottle, and then I will fill that spray bottle up to 25 because there's 5 gradations, 5-ounce gradations on that bottle. So I will, with those 250 gallons of sparge water, I'll divide that by 5. So that's 50 gallons. Math. And then I will spray that over the top of the mash 50 gallons at a time. I know I need to get those 5 ounces. So the only reason I'm diluting that in that bottle is it creates uniform gradations for me to be kind of, so I'm spreading it out appropriately throughout the entirety of the sparge. So I mean that's really the idea there. That's when I'm acidifying. That's how I'm acidifying. And again, I don't like to, I've been at places and I brewed at places where people will just say, well, okay, I need 100 mils of acid to acidify this sparge water. And they'll just like pour it in at the beginning of the sparge and put the container over the side. Listen, your pH of your kettle is going to be correct, but that's not what you're actually trying to do when you're acidifying your sparge water. You're trying to drop the pH of all of the sparge water that is going to be rinsing your grains, because the higher the pH is of that water, potentially above 6, I believe, is a line where you want to be staying below or not going over. You can pull tannin out of that, right? Or astringency, harshness, graininess, or what have you. So yeah, that's why I do that, and that's where we're going with it. We have some love in the chat. We've got a good question. So I'm talking Junior. I was thinking people were saying nice things to the possibility of my parents in the chat, and then they're just saying creepy things. September's always keeping me on my toes. You know what I mean? That spray bottle does squeak, and yeah, I have to squeeze it a bunch. But yeah. It's Rec has the question: how many times do you do a cone dump on a heavily dry hop beer? So first of all, there's a modifier in there of heavily dry hopped. It depends on what heavily dry hopped is to you. For some people, that's 1 pound, 2 pounds, 4 pounds, 6 pounds, 8 pounds per barrel. Yeah, I mean, for me, any dry hop beer, I dry hop it. I try to give it 24 hours of contact time, and then I'm trying to blow it down once a day, or just plain get it off those hops as soon as possible. If you haven't, dude, I will tell you this. The podcast that Craft Beer and Brewing did with the Gurge, you can't get in, man. You keep trying. A buddy of mine is trying to get into the chat. I don't know. Get in and type in there, man. All these other rubes have done it. What was I looking at my phone for? What was I? Oh, the Craft Beer and Brewing podcast. They did a next level interview with a few excellent brewers. And it was, it's a little older than I thought. January 20, episode 286. West Coast IPA now with North Park, Green Cheek, and Russian River. Dude, they have Vinny Cialerzo dropping serious knowledge. And for those of you that don't like that hazy boy, they're talking about making clear beer. You need to listen to that episode, man. Super good stuff, man. Vinny, I swear Vinny's forgot more than I'm ever gonna know about beer. Killer episode. You need, even if you don't like making West Coast beer, you need to go listen to it because there's so much good information. It's just great. It's just great. DJ, yeah, Rube. Yeah, it is an underused one of the stream. Watch me find out that like Rube in some way, shape, or form is like super offensive. And to me, it's just old-timey sounding. But anyways, yeah, you really need to listen to that podcast. Throw it on during your commute or whatever, or if you're exercising, or if you're just trying to tune some things out. Killer episode, man. So good. But they talk about that. They're talking about in their West Coast stuff, right? Getting those hops off ASAP. 24 hours. 24 hours, because what they're saying is beyond that, you're getting maybe were they saying 24, 36, maybe 48, but under 3 days for sure. Most of them were talking about dropping hops early, man. And a lot of them were talking about dropping the cone on their fermentation, on their IPA fermentations, like within 12 or 24 hours. That was an interesting one, man. There's I need to go back to listen to it again. Like it was that good. It was that good. So yeah, check it out. Literally just did I answer your question? Did you? It's Rec. Yeah, I would dump them and dump them fast. So typically what I do when I'm doing a beer that I'm trying to really push fruit stuff on, and I'm trying to avoid some of like the dank, more of the danker type notes off of it. I'm dry hopping. I will blast. I will blast CO2 through the racking arm, not up through the yeast gate. Because remember, when I dry hop, I like to take it down to 58, get the yeast out of the beer, or at least the cone out of the beer. Dry hop, rouse it a few times with a CO2 blast. And then get in next morning and start, maybe rouse it again in the morning, but then by afternoon be blowing that down, blowing the hops off there, getting the tank cold the rest of the way cold, and then getting that beer out of there. That's what I'm doing with that. And really check that podcast out, and you just yeah, killer stuff. Sometimes, I mean, he has a ton of different guests on there. Sometimes, sometimes there's great stuff, sometimes there's solid stuff, whatever. But yeah, that one was one of those. That one was one of those. I don't know. September and June, if you have Gerd's contact, like text him and teach him how to comment. So yeah, help him out, help a brother out. Yeah, Vinny is the man. I definitely will. Literally just hit a cone dump on my West Coast IPA. Yeah, man. Yeah, get him off there after 24 hours for sure. Steve Fisher wants to know, been using a typical March homebrewing pump for running a CIP ball on my fermenter. Can't seem to get enough pressure. And so do you mean by that, like, you're not, like, it's not actually sheeting, so you don't actually feel it like hitting the full interior and sheeting down your fermenter? Is that what's happening, or is it just like falling out of the spray ball and not like hitting everything, or is it just not getting clean? Give me a follow-up on that, because if you're getting contact, so if there's enough pressure to make contact, then we might be looking at a different issue, which might be temperature, chemical concentration. Those things might need to go up. But if that's not the case and the March pump just doesn't have the oomph, I don't have a great answer for you on that, because the ball isn't actually sheeting. Yeah, you will need a more aggressive pump. If you do upgrade that, if you do end up upgrading with a pump that does have some more power to it, just be aware of some of those other things, because if you do have a pump that's moving wort around, from underneath the grain bed, you want to make sure that you're not blasting that too hard and compacting it like we mentioned before. But yeah, you might be looking for an upgrade, and maybe some of the chat homies can help you out with that. That might be a little bit more plugged in on the homebrew side. Yeah, maybe a submersible pump. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, check that stuff out. I can actually, I need to text him. If you can't figure it out, just text me. Just text me and I will read it. We'll see how that goes. September, man, thank you. Yeah, give that man a hand. All right. September is he's one of the people that encourages subscriptions to the channel. And once again, like this beautiful golden mic and this light and some other stuff, man, he hooked me up. He's a champion of the channel. He's a champion of the channel, champion of the cause. And now he's doing tech support for my other friends in our 40s that can't figure out how to do these things in front of us. Adam is my baby's daddy. We're leaving that there. Next question. Ryan on email. I found your channel a few months ago. I'm a home brewer of about 4 years and was looking for content on the pro side to see how things are done differently, which there was not much of. There's not a lot of pro content, is there? It's almost like there's a niche waiting to be exploited. Really, this whole channel is about exploitation. I have to say I love all of your content and have watched almost all of your videos. He was a listener up until the one video about me writing a book, and then he unsubbed. Not him. I had the chance to get up to Saucy in the land. That's what I call Cleveland. Nobody else does, just me. And was excited. A couple of your beers were there. Escape was really great and was sad I couldn't get any to go except for growlers, but that's a bit too much to bring back. Escape is our pina colada ale. I wanted to see if you had any tips for me, as I'd like to brew something similar, specifically fruit side. Did you use pineapple puree and coconut puree, if there is such a thing? I've done a mango wheat that came out great, and I would love to try to make something similar to Escape. Thanks again, and keep up the great work. The next time I'm near Cincy, I'm definitely stopping by. Thank you so much. I'm flipping back for the name, Ryan, for all your kind words, man. Yeah, I'm actually, I actually brewed Fuse today, or not Fuse, but Escape, our pina colada beer. And yes, I am using real pineapple, real coconut in there. My recommended things for that are the Cholaka coconut product, which is absolutely sensational in my mind. I like to, I think it's recommended to add that post fermentation around 55 degrees. That one's absolutely awesome. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a beer I'm pretty proud of, man. It's a little quirky. It's a little bit weird. It has lactose in it. It has a bunch of flaked oats, a bunch of flaked rye. It's a 4% beer. It's this small little thing, but it's tasty, and we sell a ton of it. And I feel really good about it. A side note, I also use a TTB approved natural extract for that, for pina colada. But there is, in a 15 barrel batch, there are 250 pounds of pineapple that go into it and 132 pounds of coconut. So it's not like I'm just skimping out and doing completely extract with that. And it makes an interesting, fun little beer. I am going to be doing a full episode on that. And this is kind of a sneak peek teaser for another person who has a pretty darn big platform on the homebrewing side of things, and actually potentially a couple of folks might be brewing Escape as that kind of thing, where I'm saying I'm going to have some homebrewers be brewing some of my award-winning recipes, and that's a beer that has done well for me in competition. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I mean, that's kind of were you asking for explicit tips on it? But yeah, that beer is coming up. So this is a stay tuned answer, because that content is a coming. All right. And from Cleveland, man. My wife's family's from Cleveland, so my kids are half Clevelandese. So, you know, I mean, there's a genetic connection. What else? Let me peek at the chat real quick. It's Rec. Are you going to be at GABF this year with some of your breweries' beer? Great question. I don't know. I'm going to be at CBC. They denied my request to talk at CBC. Did it hurt my feelings? No. Am I telling the truth? No. It hurt my feelings. CBC, I wanted to talk at your conference. I gave the talk at the Ohio conference, and it went really well. I think I did a good job, like a big boy. But anyhow, I will be at CBC in Nashville, and I'm looking forward to that. GABF is I don't know. We'll see. It's later in the year, and we'll see what the company wants to be doing for that. But yeah, I will be at CBC. I will not have beer in CBC, in World Beer Cup, because they do World Beer Cup all the time, right? Now they do that every year. I will not have beer in that, any of my beer in that, but I will be down there in the streets of Nashville. I have a cowboy hat now, so I might be wearing my cowboy hat. If anybody is going to be there from Nashville, or you're a brewer that's going to be at that conference and you want to buy me cowboy boots, I like the idea of more like the functional kind of workman type cowboy boots. So you could buy me you could buy me cowboy boots, and it would look nice with my cowboy hat. So yeah. Welcome to hey Sean. Hey man, we are opening a small brewery in Arizona and have been getting a lot of people asking for non-alcoholic beers. What's your take on the process? My take on the process is this. You talk to if you have the ability to bring in outside beer, you talk to the distributor in your area, and you find out what the most popular craft non-alcoholic beer near you is. My guess is that it is Athletic, and you ask for the most popular beer that is sold by Athletic, and you do that. That is my take, and I'm not trying to be sassy, Sean, and I'm not trying to I don't know. I feel a little bit bad about that answer, but there's issues with this process, man. First of all, it's not easy to make a tasty non-alcoholic beer. There's flavors and aromas that are made during fermentation that just you just can't have. And now Athletic, sassy answers only. Athletic, and some people hate it. Some people think they do a good job. I think it's respectable for what it is. Non-alcoholic beer is really, really hard. It's oftentimes thin, astringent, maybe sometimes like wordy or doughy and like real flabby. And it's just missing its character. It's real soulless. And there's different techniques. You can flash distill alcohol off of it, super expensive. You can filter out the alcohol, super expensive. You can run an arrested fermentation, where you let a wort ferment a little ways, stop it, but then you have to stabilize it. You have to drop the pH. There's a lot of additives that these people end up using. You can also do something like making like a 2 Plato wort, or like a 1008 wort, and then fermenting it down to 1004. So you get like a little bit of fermentation character, but still like 0.5%. But dude, this stuff, doing that well is hard and or expensive. Throw a keg on of what somebody else is making, you'll still make money on it. And to me, and maybe your area is different than me or by me, but make good beer, put good beer on tap. If you want to save a handle for something NA and see how it goes, go for it. But to invest serious money on it, I think the NA beer game is going to be the providence of much, much larger breweries. And I'm also not sold that it's going to be huge for long. All right. So I've heard the same things you have. If you want to give it a shot for fun, dig into it. Go for it. Don't hesitate. But my gut is hesitate. My gut is concentrate on what you are great at, which is probably making regular beer, and spending probably $170, $180 on a half barrel of NA beer that might be better than you can make. And there's no risk. You know, if it doesn't sell, it will eventually. You could get rid of it, whatever. But that's my gut on it, man. Me, have I tried before? I have been part of the process before. I hung out during a collaboration with Brewdog and Saucy, and fascinating stuff. And yeah, I think it's going to be the providence of larger brewers. So that's kind of my thing. And correct, September, IPA will never last. NA is the future. But you know, the NA question is a valid one. You know, you see increasing stuff online, and maybe it's just the dumb dorky stuff I listen to, but there's, you know, there's a movement with some younger drinking age people of, you know, kind of looking at drinking habits and cutting off drinking, you know, or cutting back on drinking, you know, and having a little bit more temperance with it, which probably isn't all bad at the end of the day, right? Said the brewer who's, you know, sitting in front of his computer just drinking water and coffee. But yeah, so yeah, I would kind of dip your toe in it like that, and check. So yeah. And there's some other ideas in there too. Some of the fellows have some good ideas in there. You know, it's difficult to mimic the malt flavor. I will say that Muntons, I believe, makes essentially a non-alcoholic malt extract or beer extract that it looks like malt extract. I have a tub of it, and what you're supposed to do is hot water into the kettle. You whirlpool it, you pour this stuff in, and then you could add like whirlpool hops if you want, but it's basically a blonde ale already, and you just hydrate it, and then you put it through your HeatX directly into a bright tank, and you carbonate it. Kind of wild. I haven't played with it yet. I need to, but that's fun nonsense playing, and I don't have time for fun nonsense playing right now. So root beer. Yeah. And I'm not trying to shoot anything down, Sean. I hope I hope it's it's nothing like that. Yeah, he can call me. Gerds, call me. No, don't say well next time. Just yeah, he's got so much going. There I am looking stupid. You might need to do it through the app. Watch through the app. YouTube app. So somebody, the guy that wants to ask me a question is actually the guy that trained me into the industry. So I'm gonna see if I'm gonna try to push. I'm not gonna put him on the spot like that. Yeah, Brewdog does. I didn't know they do that. So yeah, check that out. It's Rex says that they post the thing, and yes, he is the real brewer. He is the real brewer. Next question is actually, where are we at? What time is it? We're taking a potty break. Nathaniel, good to see you, boozy scientist. What's the simplest way to figure out water profiles from water? Seems a bit much for me. Sweet. So welcome everybody. Welcome, Jason. If you just joined, please be patient. We are 90 minutes in. We're going to take a quick potty break and refill break, and we'll be back here in just a minute. Chug, chug, chug. All right, I'll be back. All right. More questions? Look at this. All right, let me. Yeah, I think you have to be in the app to comment. My buddy's trying to. He can't comment just by watching on like the browser or what have you. But yeah, what are you gonna do? That stinks. It stinks. So I'm back. Got a beverage. Made a little potty, and we're back at it, ladies and gentlemen. We're back at it. Who's scientist? Welcome back, my man. What is the simplest way to figure out water profiles? Brewing water seems a bit much for me. Yeah, man. So brewing water was a bit much for me too. And then my buddy Andy showed me how to use it. So I needed to be taught, and maybe I need to do like because this is for me. I need the dumb man's tutorial to understanding how to use brewing water. Maybe at some point I'll show how I have it set up and how I use it. Like for the layman, you know what I mean? So I probably need to do something like that, but this is an area that I struggle too. And I actually had somebody help me through it. I do understand how to use it now. But yeah, I can see how it's how it would be demanding, and potentially it would be a good thing for a video. Maybe chat can help out with that. If there's anybody that's using, I don't know of much else beyond that. As far as calculators and whatnot, I've just used that since the first place I've been brewing at. So maybe some other folks would have some ideas for you in the chat. But sorry, I don't have anything for you on that. Robert Brown back in the house. Robert Brown just started making my I'm gonna guess that's fruited dippa. Just started fermenting this morning. Love that. Very, very cool. Let me know how those come out. Yes, that was fruited, indeed. Some answers for Nathaniel. Suggesting Brewfather. Sure, absolutely. Is currently taste testing my West Coast IPA and hazy IPA, patching some West Coast in an hour or so, and hazy sometime this weekend. But soon Hetty Topper and Focal Banger. Yeah, baby. Some of the big boys right there. Robert Brown, I didn't use Whirlflock, just saying. It says you did in the videos, but I didn't think it was necessary considering using the oats. Yeah, and so on that front, and of course, September and June heard my wet toot from my bathroom break. I feel like things are escalating as far as that goes. Yeah, and I've gone back and forth on that. You said you left the Whirlflock out, which I totally get. I've gone back and forth on including, not including the Whirlflock, and I could probably use some I think you could potentially make some arguments on both sides for it. I haven't settled exactly where I sit on it or not. I wouldn't fault you for doing it one way or another. But yeah, usually I'm testing other things, like I'm trying new hops, new volumes, a different hop product, and so sometimes that's one of the things that slips as far as me tracking it closely in my process. What else? Jamie Tripp, I'm drinking. Nice. Beersmith is good. We were talking about that before. September, did you end up making that purchase of Beersmith? I think it's handy. I think I like it. Yeah. Yeah. If I ever did write a book, it would not be about water chemistry. That's for sure. It would be, the brewing water for dummies. It would be a pamphlet. It would be a pamphlet. KO Brewing, not sure if I've seen that name before, so welcome. I'm planning to make a big 3-liter starter of Imperial Yeast L28 for a Pils. I'm not sure what L28, what one that is. Obviously it's a lager strain. If somebody knows and just wants to holler it in the chat, that'd be great. L28 from Imperial. What's a good starter temp for the yeast, and should I decant and pitch cold since it's a Pilsner? I'm of the mind of I would what I've done with that. First of all, thank you for brewing at home and growing up a starter for your lagers. I did a starter really for everything, and I think it's one of the biggest differences between making good beer at home and not. Obviously, you need your sanitation. Temperature control is great. Healthy yeast, though, man, I tell you what, that's where it's at. That's really where it's at. So I would tip of the hat on that. I would propagate that yeast at room temp. If you want to keep it a little on the cooler side, I wouldn't worry about keeping it at a really cold temp. You didn't say what size batch that's going into, but I would be tempted to maybe grow that up. And one of the things I've done before is I had a big 5-liter flask and it was awesome. And I would make big starters in there. And what I've done before is I have taken, I have grown up a starter ahead of time, cooled it in the refrigerator, saw the yeast settled. And then on brew day, right at the beginning of the brew day, I would decant off the cold wort off the top of that, and then I would actually add a new starter wort to it that was cooled and like actually closer to fermentation temp. Like if I was going to do a lager, like 50, 52 degrees. So I would cool the yeast down to that point, and then I would put it in a cooler area of the house. It doesn't have to be right at 50 or 52. You could put it in your fermentation chamber if you wanted to, but hopefully just not like out at 80 or something like that. Just give it a little chance to start popping again a little maybe, and then I would decant that whole thing into, but just like a liter for that little kick, that little nudge on brew day. I would take a look at it like that. But yeah, anything like that. You could decant some of the wort if you don't want all 3 liters going in. If you feel like that's going to be too large a percentage, you could decant some of that wort off the top and then swirl the rest up and dump it in. That'd be a great way to go. So I would be careful with that stir bar though. If you're using a stir plate, sometimes that stir bar, you pour that out and it just hits like if you're in a glass. Well, you're probably not in glass. Nobody ferments in glass anymore like an old head like I would. But that was way back in the day, fermenting in glass. But yeah. So anyhow, thanks. I love the stream. It's the Urquell, the traditional Czech lager strain. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's how I would run it. Get a good, happy, healthy pitch. If you don't have time or whatever, yeah, just get it a little colder, decant. But if you're going in at 50 degrees on that beer, or 55, 52, whatever you do, 48, I would get your yeast close to that temperature though before you add it. I don't think you want to be throwing a 10-degree swing at your yeast. I think you want to keep them happy, keep them cozy. So let's not throw big temp swings at them. Stephen Plass, yeah, indeed. All right, I am gonna jump back on questions. Good long one here. Fabian on YouTube. So I typically use some caustic cleaner, but if I have more than one keg to clean, I just use the same solution, pushing it from one keg to another. Do you think that is a bad way to do it? The stuff is extremely expensive. Yeah, I'm trying to get of course you can answer on the live stream. That'd be pretty cool, to be honest. Smiley face. I'll try to listen. I have NC kegs which typically become empty at the same time. To clean them, I release the pressure, open them, roughly clean them by using a water hose on the surface. There shouldn't be anything left. And then he fills with hot water. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the stuff can be one thing that I would caution you about when if you're using a caustic based cleaner and you're introducing it into a CO2 rich environment, you're going to have some problems because caustic cleaners. I'm itching my foot. Are you all right with that? Caustic based cleaners can be neutralized by a CO2 rich environment. And when you think about it, that keg that you have, so say you're using a corny keg where you can pop the lid out of it, right? and you've just evacuated all the beer out of it by using CO2. So it's just all CO2. You open it up and you put some hot water and your caustic product in there, and it's halfway, and you start swirling it around or whatever. You still have a good amount of CO2 on top of that liquid, and you can start neutralizing or rendering your caustic product less effective. This is why, like on a keg washer, if you were to watch the keg washing tutorial or technique, whatever it's called, on the channel and one of the playlists, and that is a reminder, if you want to see like different techniques, different tutorials, I do have playlists on the main channel for that stuff, so check that out too. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons when you go back and look at that keg washing tutorial, my keg washer is set up to run one chemical at a time, and I'm running caustic in it. And so it goes between two different gases to evacuate that keg. Up front, it uses compressed air because it's always trying to push out as much CO2 as it can. So it's not neutralizing the caustic that I'm holding in the chemical tank, right? So yeah, that's kind of the big idea, and this is why I wanted to bring this question up. Whether you're talking about a fermenter or a keg or something like that, if you're going to be cleaning that thing with a caustic solution, you want to make sure that you're evacuating it. Like when I soak a keg, like a Brink type keg, and I'm gonna do like a PVC soak on it before I run it on something else. I'll fill it through the bottom, just completely with water all the way up to the top. It serves as a rinse. A rinse that's not really needed, but what I'm really doing is I'm pushing all the CO2 out of that container. So when I add my caustic product to it, it's not neutralized, or at least partially neutralized. All right. So yeah. Robert Brown, I am getting a metallic taste in some beers and not in others. Where are places I can look to resolve this? You started to write down fermenter numbers in my beers. Okay, you started to write down what fermenter numbers that you're getting. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm following you here, man. The metallic taste, I might not. So first of all, the metallic thing is a blind spot for me. There's some things I'm really sensitive to. I'm really sensitive to phenols. It's one of the reasons why I'm not super Belgian crazy. Is those beers get phenolic to me real easily, and so here's like the cattiest beer thing that I can say. One of the worst beers I had, for personal preference, when I was in Brussels, was a beautiful little bottle of West Mall Triple. To me, it tasted, the phenols were such in that beer that for me it's smoky and plastic, and not smoky, it's plasticky. Sorry, and I know that's not everybody, but phenols get turned into plastic for me so quick, right? And so it's the same. It's the same thing. I do like quads. And there are some Belgians that I really enjoy, but there's certain Belgian character that gets too much for me in a hurry. And so that's something I'm sensitive to. The metallic thing is something I'm a little bit blind on. Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to make sure that everything in your brewery is brewery appropriate metals. I'm not super sharp when it comes to that stuff. As far as my background, I would recommend checking out. I'm sure they have like a full podcast with John Palmer, who is a metallurgist, or maybe he's an alchemist. I don't know. It's something. It's one of those things. Maybe he's making gold out of dirt. Okay. But he knows all that stuff and loves it. And I'm pretty sure Brewing Network has to have like a Brew Strong episode or something where Palmer is talking about metal. You should definitely check that out. I've also had people talk to me about getting a metallic thing out of an amber ale that I used to make, and it was a very specific one that I used to make that was using like a blend of like a 25 love, like a 30 love, 60 love, and 80 love British chocolate malt. I'm not chocolate, but caramel malt. And so I've seen people pull some of that stuff in my beers out of stuff like that. So sometimes it might be a malt thing, it might be a contribution of water. But you're gonna have to do a little grinding on your own on that one, because I'm not super qualified to answer that. But yeah, we can all do a little research on it. How long can yeast last in a brink? September. I like to put it in a brink for as little amount of time as humanly possible. I mean, that's where I come down at. I don't want it in a brink at all. I primarily use brinks as a way of measuring yeast. So I will rack yeast into a brink in order to weigh it. And then generally I'm harvesting the day that it's going into another beer. So, I get my fermenter sanied. I have my brew day going, fermenter sanied. And then one of the lines that I use when I